Hello and welcome to a new edition of Africa Today. And today we have a variety of news, on the top of which is the visit by the Foreign Minister to Seoul. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdelati stressed the Egyptian government's readiness to provide necessary support and facilities to Korean investors, inviting the South Korean business community to explore opportunities available in Egypt. Details follow.
Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati highlighted Egypt's strategic position as a gateway to African markets and presented investment opportunities in the Suez Canal economic zone during a meeting with representatives of major South Korean companies in Seoul on Tuesday. The meeting focused on strengthening economic and investment ties, with Abdelati expressing appreciation for the role South Korean companies play in Egypt and praising the success of Korean firms operating in the country. He reviewed recent economic and structural reforms undertaken by the Egyptian government, noting that these measures have improved the business climate and enhanced Egypt's attractiveness to foreign investors. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Abdelati stressed Egypt's competitive advantages, particularly its access to African markets through the African Continental Free Trade Area, and outlined investment opportunities in the Suez Canal. He also highlighted incentives for investors, including streamlined procedures, infrastructure upgrades, and access to industrial land, while encouraging South Korean companies to expand existing investments and explore new opportunities in priority sectors. Abdelati affirmed the Egyptian government's readiness to provide all necessary support and facilitation measures for Korean investors.
And moving to Sudan, where tribal clashes in South Darfur region have killed 16 people and also led to the burning of villages and homes. Fighting erupted between the tribes at the end of May, southwest of South Korea's capital Nyala, a region dominated by tribes that make their living from livestock. The Darfur region has witnessed similar conflicts in past decades, many of which have resulted in large numbers of dead and displaced. The latest tribal fighting comes at a time when the RSF is experiencing defections by field commanders who have joined the Sudanese army. Now, in its fourth year, the war has killed 200,000 people by some estimates and displaced upwards of 11 million more, while thrusting several areas of Sudan into hunger and famine. And now we are joined over the phone by Dr. Ayman Ghoneim, economic, legal and economic expert, to shed more light on the visit by Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati to Seoul. And now, Dr. Ayman, how can the Egyptian government work specifically with the Korean partners to ensure investment incentives translate into the actual localization of high-tech manufacturing?
Well, actually, the relationships between South Korea and Egypt on the economic side is very strong. South Korea is one of the largest investors in Egypt. It has an investment stock of around $6 billion in Egypt. And the investment, the Korean investment, they span over a large range of sectors, including information communication technology, including automotives, manufacturing industries, of course, renewable energy, which is the future sector of Egypt, and yes, Egypt tries to promote investment in such sector. Egypt, as you said, is granting a lot of incentives to foreign investors. We have the law number 72 for the year 2017 regarding the investment and investment incentives. And such law grants a lot of incentives. Actually, it allows the government to grant golden licenses to foreign investors, so they can start operating without the requirement of having approvals of different authorities. It allows tax shield of around 50 or of up to 50% of the investment cost in the strategic areas and the so-called Zone A areas, including, of course, Suez Canal Economic Zone and other strategic areas in Egypt, while other areas in the B zone are granted up to 30% of the investment cost as a tax shield. It allows the rebate of a part or the whole of the cost of infrastructure. It allows access to arable land and access to industrial land and land that has superb infrastructure. So we have all these incentives. And now the Egyptian government is trying to work closely with its foreign partners, different foreign partners like the European Union, like the BRICS countries, like now South Korea. So we're trying to work with them closely in order to promote all these incentives and operationalize them and put them into effect. The point here is that the government is trying to solve all the problems in the field, is trying to promote the investment opportunities, and is trying to solve any small or any small-scale problem in order not to put obstacles in the face of foreign investors.
So, Dr. Ayman, also, how can we attract more South Korean investors to Egypt and enhance economic and investment cooperation between the two countries and to review promising investment opportunities in the Egyptian market?
Well, actually, we know that economics is like a cycle. The economy is like a cycle. When it starts moving, to move it first, you need a lot of power. But then when it starts moving, it requires less power and it commands high speed. That's exactly what happens in moving the cycle of investments, because success brings success. Now, we have a lot of success stories for foreign investors in Egypt, especially in the Suez Canal economic zone. We have the Chinese economic zone, the TIDA economic zone, and they invest in many sectors, including, as we said, the renewable energy, the production of blue and green hydrogen, automotive, cables, electronics. So all these investments and all these companies, they encourage others to come, and especially Southeast Asian companies, because the countries of Southeast Asia, they share the same, we can say, work ethics and work values, and they share the same culture. So promoting the success of these companies and investors, especially in the Suez Canal economic zone, of course, would help to attract more investments from South Korea. And especially with the economic and trade showdown last year between the U.S. and its major trade partners, many of them, of course, in Southeast Asia, predominantly China, of course, but South Korea has its share. So with many Asian manufacturers trying to move their manufacturing facilities outside their countries, and they're trying to do this in order to escape from the U.S. tariffs. So Egypt has a lot of opportunities and can attract a lot of investment, and especially with the superb infrastructure that was constructed in the term of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on one hand, and on the other hand, the Egyptian competitive advantages, mainly, of course, the proximity of Egypt to the markets of Southern Europe and the U.S., and the facilities given by Suez Canal. So all these competitive advantages, along with the incentives offered by the Egyptian government and the appetite of the foreign investors to come to avoid the U.S. tariffs, as I said. So all these factors, I believe we can use them to promote the investments of South Korea.
So, sir, with the food security being a top priority, how can Korean agricultural technology transfer boost African agricultural yields?
Well, as you said, the issue of food security now is a predominant issue for all the developing as well as the developed countries on one hand, and second, many of the African countries like Egypt, they went into the water scarcity zone. The water scarcity now is a global issue and the global problem, and to fight such a problem, we need to increase the consumption, increase the productivity of the land on one hand, and also we need to use modern technology of irrigation. In these two fields, I believe that we need a lot of cooperation, not only with South Korea, but with many countries, including, of course, China, including India, including the BRICS countries, including Russia, as well as the Western Hemisphere also. I believe it's a global challenge, and we have to face it, and we have to try to increase, as I said, the productivity of the land, of course, using genetic engineering, using new breeds of seeds on the one hand, and also we have to modernize the agricultural networks and the water desalination networks and the water desalination facilities and plants. And in Egypt we have a lot of successful experiments in this, whether in Bahr al-Bahr water desalination plant or Mahsama water desalination plant. I believe in Egypt around 50% of our agricultural wastewater is being desalinated. It's of course it's a big percentage, and we're trying even to improve this, and we're using in Egypt the so-called tertiary desalination, which uses the primary desalination, which is removing the hard substances from the water, and then you have the secondary desalination, which is using biological treatment and removing the biological waste, and then the tertiary treatment, which is using of filtration. So and this is important, especially for the crops that are targeted to the export markets of Southern Europe and the US, because this guarantees the purity of the water and hence the purity of the agricultural crop that's being exported. Of course, all these technologies, they are available east and west, but of course our experience with the Asian technology is that it's the most cost effective so far.
So, Dr. Ayman, one final question. Beyond the Suez Canal economic zone, how is Egypt positioning itself to help South Korea firms navigate regulatory and logistical complexes of the African continental free trade area?
Well, actually, Egypt is the gateway of Africa. This is both a geopolitical as well as an economic reality, because from the geopolitical side, the political leadership of Egypt, and especially under the leadership of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, plays an important role in solving the African problems. Also, Egypt speaks the voice of the South in all the international forums, like the right of the southern countries to have finance at just and easy terms and at justifiable cost, on the one hand. On the second hand, Egypt tries to play a pivotal role in the peacekeeping and in the peace diplomacy in the world and in the Middle East, and this is highly respected by all the African countries as well as the whole world. From the economic side, as you said, we have the Suez Canal economic zone, and it's now being positioned as the gateway, as the flagship of investment of Egypt in the coming decade on the one side, and on the other side as the gateway of Africa. It tries to use the natural advantages, the proximity of Egypt to the African countries and to Southern Europe on the one hand, and also supported by superb infrastructure that has been constructed during the term of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. And therefore this area is expected to play a leading role in the logistics, exportation and importation of Africa in the coming decade.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Ayman Ghoneim, legal and economic expert. Thank you for being with us. And back to our reports from the African continent, and moving to Somalia, where Somalia's international partners have urged the government and opposition to resume dialogue and finalize the country's electoral roadmap immediately. Details follow.
The international community has expressed deep concern over Somalia's political situation, calling on the government and opposition to urgently resume dialogue and reach agreement on the country's electoral roadmap. In a joint statement, Somalia's international partners said they stand ready to support and, if necessary, facilitate Somali-led talks, stressing the importance of a consensus that serves the interests of the Somali people. The signatories urged Somali political leaders to prioritize national interests and avoid any actions that could further escalate tensions during what they described as a sensitive period for the country. The statement was issued by the European Union delegation to Somalia, the United Nations Transitional Mission in Somalia, and the embassies of Austria, Belgium, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. The appeal comes as political tensions intensify over Somalia's electoral process, with growing disagreements between government and opposition figures on the future direction of the country's political system. Opposition groups are reportedly planning a major protest on the 4th of this month, adding further uncertainty to an already fragile political environment.
For another 3 weeks, they proposed the U.S. Ebola quarantine facility that has triggered protests, killing 2 people. Details follow.
The U.S. Ebola quarantine facility that has triggered protests, killing 2 people, was blocked by a Kenyan court on Tuesday for another 3 weeks. Many Kenyans are angry over the proposed 50-bed unit on an Air Force base in central Kenya for Americans exposed to the virus in the Democratic Republic of the Congo or Uganda. They accused the U.S. of offloading the health risk of caring for patients. A Kenyan court last week temporarily suspended the plan in response to a lawsuit from a legal advocacy group. However, U.S. military aircraft have continued to fly in staff and equipment in recent days, according to a U.S. official and diplomatic sources. The Kenyan High Court on Tuesday issued an order barring the Kenyan government from taking any steps to build or begin operations at the facility in the town of Nanyuki before the case is resolved. The next hearing is scheduled for June 23. The U.S. State Department did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Hundreds protested against the plan in Nanyuki on Monday. A protest organizer said 2 people were killed by gunshot wounds after police opened fire. A security source also said 2 people had died but did not specify cause of death.
And by that we come to the end of today's edition of Africa Today. Thank you for watching.